got a question.
Okay.
The first section you give me on number 8.
Well, what it was,
Was worded multi-barrel due to the lack of a second, which would be correct. But in this set, says no action taken.
well, because the mayor didn't say anything about that, you know what I mean? It was for the fact that, there was a discussion,
This one is the most made, don't get this.
there's a that's right, that's right.
We can amend it.
We can amend that if you want to.
No second.
And then there, no second, okay.
Anything else in this? Second. Any questions? Any further discussion? All voting? Item number 3 is 4. Motion made, had no second. To me, it's 7.5 years, it's failed. So, I was just there. My opinion of that matter is that the probation increase is done away with. We'll pass the, at will division on the probation increase.
It's actually removed, and that's why I want to pass this to clarify the point that there is no probation period, probation
The
period.
one we passed, there is one. Only difference is the next person was the post. We're leaving the identity, we went over.
Right.
The identity, nothing changed from the one we voted on.
So, well, okay. What I'd like to do at this point, I'd like to change this, so what are you saying here?
So maybe, I mean, there's no sense to the motion, and I still say by the policy we had in on at the time. That time, I mean, look at that. But you gotta look at the time. At the time, you gotta eliminate the paper. I disagree with that, because when you pass that will division, that effected away with the probationary period. There's no need for probation.
The original intent of that probation period was only for, and I discussed this with Tim, was only for, the benefits part of it. And that, I explained that, I was told at the time to take it out, that we don't need it because it's at will. And I was told to take it out, and I said, well, I felt like leaving it in there may be a clear message too, that you have no. My thought on that right there, that's what I'm trying to correct with this right here. You know, to me, it was a moot point, even bringing up anything that we've done since then, it's really been a moot point. Even the, Gary down water plant, doing that.
Motions in place.
She came in on probation period, right? Or did she have a probation? Well, I mean, what do you want us, let's just get down, what do you want here?
Well, I'm just asking the question, how he can still be working if there's no job. Well, it's my opinion is that motion, passed or failed, has no effect on the employment.
I don't think so
Now,
either.
who's that will employ? I want to speak to that motion. That is a bad motion. I'm opposed to that. The reason that I'm opposed to that is because the police department is in the best shape now. They've been in 60 years without, almost 60 years without. You remember some of you on the board, when this occurred, we had the impasse. We couldn't take action and employ a chief, and then there was a compromise made, I suppose, hired a chief. We got into all kinds of problems, all kinds of difficulties. We had lawsuits, we stand still at risk. Since Mr. Leonard has become chief, records are in place. There's no question of what the police department is doing. He presents his information, he presents his activity logs. I just think it's a new mistake. And I don't want to record down opposing that motion.
I'd like to go on record that I agree with the analysis of that. You know, we've been through all this, and I do agree that I think the police department is in good shape, and it's been in several years. I was on record saying the same thing. And, okay, I would like an explanation or a reason as to why you would like to relieve Mr. Warren about this position.
Mr. Mayor,
I
may I ask
disagree
a
with
question?
that. I disagree.
That's what it says. I think the courteous thing to do is get your head inclined, but will, it means that will, I guess. What I'm understood, I've always said, what I think about it.
Constituents would like an explanation.
That's right.
That's right.
We wanna know,
We want to know.
what's the problem? It's the best man he's ever been in here in this city.
Let's don't have any discussion from the office.
Be discussing it with Channel 5 tomorrow. Pull this shoddy stuff.
We have a motion and a second. I'm going on record as opposing that motion. I don't have a vote. I just express my opinion. You ready to vote? All voted.
No.
Mr. Gore votes aye, Mr. Stafford votes aye, Mr. Kennedy votes no. Now, I will say this to those out here in the audience who want an explanation of this. We need to speak with the gentleman who made this decision in a private setting. I think we need to take up our time here and discuss it. The question was asked, and Mr. Gore gave his reason.
Mr. Mayor, the constituents we're here for.
Constituents can talk to him.
We want to hear it in public. We want to hear
public-
a reason
it's a public
why
meeting.
you're taking this position. You're our elected officials. We want to know why.
We don't agree with what you're doing, and you owe us an explanation.
This
If
is
not
a
us.
public meeting. This is a city public meeting. Everyone in this town was invited to this meeting, and I think everyone deserves to know what the reason is.
Speak up, be the man.
You want
If you'll make the decision, speak up. We see that you've made it. We've made our decision too. This will be your last year in office. Yours too.
Mayor, actually, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Stafford is wrong. You do have to give him a reason. Charter says so.
Aha.
How long have you argued when all that happened?
How long have I argued? I don't really remember arguing the point that we were, whenever the ordinance was passed, they say that we were at the wheel last fall. Last fall.
Look on page C11 of the charter, Roger. It says the chief of police may be removed with cause. So tell us what the cause is, please.
Okay, one for it, huh?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I told him to carry on speaking for it, huh? They don't know nothing.
And for just for everybody's clarification, it's not Leonard, it's Martin.
Lord,
This is not the way to carry on a meeting. This is a public meeting. It's not the way to carry on with a meeting.
Well, how would you suggest carrying on with it?
I suggest Mr. Gore be a man that he says that he is.
I can't make Mr. Gore do anything. He says he doesn't want to comment on it, I can't make him comment. I can't force him to say,
Can Mr. Stafford comment on it? He voted no. Let's hear what his reason is.
Mr. Ellis, could you comment on what the police chief has just said about the
Yeah.
charter?
I haven't looked at that particular section of the charter.
Somebody needs to look at it then.
I'll be glad to look at it.
Charter overrides policies. Charter overrides policies. Charter's filed with the Secretary of State. Policies are filed with the Secretary.
Well, now, does somebody have a copy handy of that will ordinance? If you could, I'd like to see what it says.
I believe that will say, or it should say, don't violate any state or federal laws. No, it says it.
I'm assuming that's what it is. Well, there is a definite conflict here between these two. I don't see that there cannot be a conflict. This ordinance does not specifically amend the charter. I wasn't aware of this within the charter. Nobody had ever called it to my attention, and never had a reason to research it. But this does not amend the charter, and I don't think that's the way the procedure you go through. To amend the charter is not like having to go through the legislature. That's what I was under the impression.
Filed with the Secretary of State.
we did amend the charter. And I don't remember exactly the language. It could be when if you recall within the charter, when we took out the provision that said the chief and the city court had to be with the city of Hill.
My opinion on what these two documents is, and like I say, I was not aware of this charter, so I have a reason. My opinion is the charter was controlled unless the charter has been amended to change it. I don't think you can change it. As I understand it, you can't change the charter just by ordinance. It's got to go to the legislature.
Filed with the Secretary of State.
It
It sure is. If it's not filed with the Secretary of State, then the charter overrides the ordinance.
Until the charter has been amended.
We'll make ours legal.
Until the charter has been amended, it is not the charter is controlled. If you've got an ordinance that's in conflict with the charter, I think the charter is wrong.
so you just have that, that's the old policy, which says you have to be voted on for the country, correct?
Well, it's I don't see where it says that to be voted on probation, just says he can be terminated.
50 years.
But it says here, if you show me something in writing, I'll be happy to look at it. I'm just saying this charter does say he's got to show cause, and that is the same thing you gave him. And until the charter is amended, I think the charter is controlled now. If you show me something in there that amends the charter, and I will point out, the charter talks about two officials only. It doesn't talk about just every other employee. It talks about the police chief and the reporter. That's my opinion, and I would have told you that earlier if I'd have seen the charter, but I never looked at the charter, nobody called it to my attention. So that's why you have a charter. A charter is kind of, I would compare a charter for the town of Gainesboro to the Constitution of the United States. The United States Congress can pass laws, but they've got to be within the confines of the boundaries of what the Constitution says, and I think that's exactly what we've got here. Now, this charter has been amended to take that clause out of it, you know, back to us, or whatever the amendment says. But until I see an amendment, I'd have to say this charter is the controlling thing of it.
No policy? I don't know. If you're
I
ruling
don't
yes,
answer or not.
if you're ruling yes, not right, it has to.
I'm not ruling anything, Roger. I don't know.
Does the charter say anything at all about the policy that you don't approve of? That you have to approve? I guess my question is, and I'd like somebody to show me something right, but I'm not saying, I'm not trying to argue, I'd like to see before I tell you anything.
I would suspect, I don't know that the probation agreement is not mentioned in the charter, but I would say it's in fact in an ordinance since that time, but I don't know.
What chapter and title is what you're showing me under?
It is under section 11 of the charter. I guess the charter just goes in sections.
11, what's the sub?
It's no sub to it.
I mean, I believe you said charter with the charter.
You have everything, right?
Does the at-will, what I'm getting at, the at-will ordinance specifically addresses
We should agree.
the chapter title and everything of that? Does it complete, does the ordinance address what Rick is showing?
No, it doesn't. I do not see anywhere in here that it does.
In other words, does that, because in that ordinance, it should say what, the chapter and the title that I'm changing, or that was changed, that I'm not necessarily, I'm changing what they're doing.
I don't see, I'm not ready, this specific word for word, but I don't see that this order anywhere at all touches on the charter.
No, it should.
The ordinances are controlled by the charter, just like the laws that Congress makes are controlled by the U.S. Constitution. Same.
Right at the very top, whereas shall require that section 4-408 disciplinary action, chapter 4, personnel policy, general information, title 4. So
That doesn't mention the charter. I don't know how I understand your question.
Anytime that you create an ordinance, you address in the charter, the policies within the charter. Okay. This is a section that this ordinance addresses. This is not that section, that's section 11, this is section 4, or chapter 4. So it's two different, what I'm trying to get at, it's two different.
Well, any ordinance that's enacted, I don't care what it is, it's got to be, in my opinion, to be within the boundaries and confines of what the charter says.
It is.
It's like I go back to my example. Congress can pass a lot of laws, and they do, and occasionally congressional law that Congress has passed, the president has signed, sent it to the Congress House vote to pass it, the president has signed it, and then it gets to the Supreme Court, they say, no, this is unconstitutional, and that's kind of what I'm basing this on.
see in reference where I'm talking about, that's what it's reference. It does not address what it is referring to.
Well, but, okay, let's see, 4. Now, section 4, this I think is addressing another ordinance, because 4 is about an open office in the charter, section 4.
No.
I think what this is, I think if you look at 4.408, somebody's got a copy of all the ordinances, 4.408. That's what this is addressing. I think if you reading this charter, to me tells me that probably the probationary period would never have any application on this charter, because it says can be removed for cause. That's the key word, for cause. The probationary period, I understand, has always been, during that time, we can remove you without cause.
Right.
So you got a conflict right there between the charter and the ordinance.
But that's why I came tonight with this ordinance right here to
For
change it.
them to have to do that ordinance today.
Which ordinance did I pass? That one? Yes. I've got emails. Okay.
There may be other employees in this charter that have similar language. I don't know. I'm talking about that. The only two I addressed in in section 11 there, it just simply says what it says. It may be removed for cause, and that's, you may get a state attorney general opinion and says, I don't know what I'm talking about, it's wrong, but until I do, if somebody shows me something different, that's what it says. I'm not adding to or taking from, I'm just quoting what it says. I think, Mr. Gore, if I read that correctly, even if you were under your old policy, you've got, for those two employers, and those two employers only, under that old policy, they can be removed for cause. And I've understood the probationary period, before we got the at-will thing passed here, as I understand the probationary period says, within that probationary period, you can remove anybody for any reason. You just, if you don't want to work, you let it go. But under the charter, I don't think that probationary period under this charter would ever apply to the chief of police and city enforcement. Well, it may have, I'm not debating any of that, I'm just thinking what's the charter.
What did you do on that? When you're pointing to
You're
me,
sitting here telling me that you don't have to do that, you did.
what I'm trying to do is straighten all that out tonight.
If there was a motion by Roger Gore, second by George Ennis, that not to pass the off probation, as far as him, as a permanent, full-time staff.
What,
Voters have called.
do we have a date on, that?
He was hired in, Chief Rick's first police officer.
That's right.
March 4, 2010. When was he at will? I believe that was in last fall.
He was also hired as chief.
He was a new hire chief.
I think at will still work nobody. Anybody except the reporter and chief of police. Unless it's addressed
It's just they just won't read it. He's not got that number to say.
I don't know that I've ever been asked to look
He
at
don't
the charter
read everything
and
they
the
say.
charter before. And that's the first time I've really, characters gained it at one time or other without having to mention that, for us to read it, to digest it, that's the first time I've ever looked at it. It says what it says.
Mr. Mayor, doesn't that negate the vote?
No, it just requires a reason.
Just give them a reason.
I certainly have
Is it that hard to come up with a reason?
question in my mind if you can remove either one of these two from your full call.
What's the cause?
Just asking for a cause.
Has he not done his job?
It's best it's been in 2 years.
I've got 3 businesses down here, and he's done more good than anybody since I've been here than anybody else.
School traffic's been patrolled better than it's been. I've been out there for the past year. You couldn't ask for any better. Lived in the city 19 years. Anytime I've had a call, they've been right on it.
Bobby, what, a motion has been made and seconded and passed.
My opinion on the two documents I'm looking at here, and it's strictly what I'm looking at. If there's something else that I don't see, then I would be happy to take a look at it. As for what I'm looking at here, he can only be removed for cause. I just said he can be removed for cause. That's what it says.
So what is the status of the?
Null and void.
I would think the motion would be until there was some reason given, the motion would probably not carry out. I'm arguing, but that's just the way I see it.
Mr. Ellis, that would require a documented reason, correct? Not just a word of mouth.
Well, that's a whole other issue. I guess that'd have to be an interpretation of what cause means. I don't think it would necessarily be written. I think it would have to be, I think it's something that would lead to a challenge. It is where I think that would come from, is where there was a cause. Where, you know, if there's another termination because he's not got his uniform on tonight, then I think that would have to go where that would be cause. And I think that's a great example of the first thing in my mind. I think if you say, if you give a reason, then I assume that Mr. Lerner would have a right to challenge that reason.
I would think if we had a policy in place for the police department, maybe some way I would violate that in somebody's mind. But since we don't have a policy in place, how can I violate anything?
Well, I don't know how old that is. I don't know how old that charter is, or it's been amended or whatnot. I'm just looking at the charter that handed me, and I'm assuming that's the official charter of County for us. And that's what I'm making of. If you've got anything else, I'll be happy to look at it.
Mayor, I printed that out here in the test, so.
Yes, that will policy.
It's good, Mr. Gore, for everybody except the chief and the recorder. So they're the only ones that's addressed in this charter, as I'm reading, unless you show me somebody else that's in the charter. That's what I'm getting.
Anybody else want part in that?
The policy does not apply to anybody else that I know of. Somebody can show me. And some document will apply. It does apply in this charter. And if the charter's been amended and changed, and somebody got a copy of that, I can change mine. Thank you.
Lady terminated here. Never read that policy.
Well,
I don't know.
that may have happened. I'm not.
I don't go back.
Was she for the reporter?
If she was
the reporter.
well, if she had challenged it and pointed this out to me, I've told the board they couldn't do it.
How do you do one that way if you can't do it?
Well, just because you're wrong the
As
first
long as
time.
don't make it right.
Won't make you be wrong the second.
I don't know who back our copy was in the meeting, if it's right, I couldn't tell it. I think that dismissal took place before that real policy was passed. Am I incorrect about that?
About the same time.
But all I can say about this is that lady had challenged this and showed me the same thing that I'm looking at right here. I told her that to show her a copy. That's all I'm saying.
If you remember that lady designed, she didn't. She asked for this, no, we're going to process further.
I don't recall that. I'm not disputing what anybody said. I just don't recall it.
she came back and challenged it, there may be, she might have a statute of limitations problem. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that could intervene there, but, if she came back and challenged it, I'd say this says what it says, you know. Then maybe then she at least be entitled to a hearing to see if there was cause, if she challenged it, but she's gotta challenge it before, unless somebody else wants to challenge it, and I doubt anybody else is.
She's not here tonight, Mr. Leonard is.
Well, what do we do?
Well, according to this, I'm just based on this.
I know we said that, according to that, but we.
They either got to,
Motion.
the motion fail, I said a minute ago, the motion fails unless there is a cause. That's what I,
Your opinion is the motion failed.
but that motion fails, so there's no cause to the opponent. That's what the charge is.
On the advice of the attorney, she is opinion that motion is failed.
If somebody
We have other motions, I guess.
If somebody's got something contrary to that, I'll be happy to take a look at it. I'm not trying to be one side, I'm trying to be what the doctor's saying.
It must be cause, surely this isn't personal.
Surely not.
Surely.
Acting on Mr. Ellis's opinion, the motion fails, move on to the next item on the agenda. Number 4.
I brought this up, this is an ordinance change, exactly what we're talking about. It's ordinance number 12-05-01, ordinance to change the employee probation period to a non-benefit waiting period. Whereas the town of Gainesboro shall require that sections 4-411 probationary period in chapter 4 personnel policy, general information of title 4 municipal personnel be removed and replaced with the following. 4-411 non-benefit waiting period. 1. There will be a 3-month non-benefit waiting period after being hired, during which time there will be no medical insurance, no sick day accrual, and no uniforms. 2. Having completed the 3-month non-benefit waiting period, sick day accrual for the remainder of the year will become active, medical insurance coverage will begin, uniforms, if appropriate, will be issued. Whereas this ordinance shall take effect immediately after the final passage. And I'd like to make a motion to approve this on the first reading.
I interpret that to mean that's just saying there is no such thing as probationary period.
That is correct.
Waiting period.
It's a waiting period for benefits, and that's it.
Benefits.
That will eliminate what we just been through too. Sure.
Have a motion.
I didn't say nothing.
Yes, I can hear you.
I didn't say a word. Another Patrick. Too many Patrick, sorry. I didn't say a word. I'll be quiet the whole time.
No second. Motion fails. Lack of second. Please, people, Mr. Rattler. We're gonna skip number 5 because of our discussion of this point. Number 6 is, fire department. Paul, Jimmy, you have anything you want to say?
I was just here to get an update on what you found out, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I've been talking to several different agencies about financing the fire truck. I cannot locate at this point in time, any grant money. There is a lot of loan money there. We are at one other place that we're looking to see, I have no good information about where the building is. About how much loan it's cost. I've talked with 3 different agencies. The loan, one is River Bank. Their interest rate is 3.75. They will finance it over what is considered the life of the vehicle. If it is new, we're talking about 15 to 18 years. Second, when I talked with, and that company is sending me a proposal in writing about the financing of the payments and something like that. And that's what they could offer. The third one is very similar to that second one. But I don't have any, I've talked with them on the phone, but I don't have any specific information. So I think at this point in time, 2 or 3 things we need to say. I don't think we need to say now, but I think we need to think about it. Number one, do we think it is the way to go is to finance it? Now, we have some money in reserve that we can look at using, maybe partial payment. Number two, we need to decide what kind of truck we're going to get. Paul, if I understood this correctly, I talked to that secretary, who lives out of Florida. They were talking about an 85 model.
99 Spartan quality company. You know, I think we need to make a decision about it. Is it wise to use fire engine, or is it wise to try to finance a new one? Now, all I think we agree, we talked about that. There's models that are later than 2000 and got a lot of equipment on them that the ones before.
Actually, a lot of them started getting the poly tanks and fiberglass tanks with the better hoses and stuff internally on your pump systems. Late 90s. So we did try to stay up in the late 90s if we purchased a used truck, and we also want the truck to be certified and have some sort of a warranty so we don't receive it and something's already broke. Everything needs to be tested and certified before we take delivery if we're going to purchase a used truck. Don't want to buy one as is, where it is. I think it'd be a lot better off spending money on something that's certified and tested and have some kind of guarantee that everything works when we take delivery of it.
Yeah. I haven't, and I need to do a little more consideration of this, to look at our reserve funds, to see where we are as far as reserve funds are concerned, and what, there is a requirement that we have to maintain a certain fund balance, to see how the best way to do this. I think with rural development, I think we could probably finance whatever amount we want to finance. I don't think I said this before, but people in Florida I talked to, their interest rate is 4.5, a little more than 4%. money you can spend, or if you want a new one, or you want a 10-year-old, or 8-year-old, 12-year-old.
Would we consider doing this within next year's budget, so that way, could we plan it where we might go on the premise, still do the loan thing? You know, if we had to, but go on the premise that possibly we might be able to get a grant next year through some agency or something. Now, I don't know, but you see where I'm talking about that way, because this way it doesn't force us to take the loan out during, because we don't have much time in this year's budget. You know.
I've talked with some people who are familiar with grant funds, and they said there might be some possibility for a grant next year, but there's not much grant money.
Yeah.
You just don't
Oh, but-
find grants anymore, it's all loans.
Well, I understand that, but, you know, with the possibility that we could get the grant money to pay for it instead of the loan, like that, still have the loan possibility, basically that's what we've been doing. But, budget for next year to, like a loan, but hopefully we'll get a grant to take care of that loan.
One thing just to keep in mind, FEMA cut their budget quite a bit last year, but I'm sure they'll still have it again this year. But if we go toward the grant, the time, usually they open around the end of September, and usually announce sometime around the first of the year, and then you're extended 10 months out on building a new one. Just something to keep in mind, if we can, make it another 15, 16 months, kind of piece and patch and.
Well, no, I'm not necessarily talking about that. That we could probably go ahead and get the truck on the premise that we're gonna get a grant. And if not, we, you know, it belongs, in other words, we'll do it via the loan method, but on the premise hoping that we'll get a grant to take care of that. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. In other words, do the loan thing, you know, I mean, basically go that route and just work at doing it that way. But then hopefully still apply for a grant to take care of that, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you see, that's,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just like getting, basically, hopefully with the jackpot.
Yeah.
You know, the lottery, hit the lottery, and then we'll use that money to pay for it instead of taking that, or the loan will already be there, in other words, pay for that loan.
The decision we need to make by next time we meet. And whether, what kind of truck you want? Cheap one. You want to look at a new truck? Or you want to look at 5 years old, or you want to look at 10 years old? That's all going to affect how much money you're going to have to, what the loan will have to be, when we figure in what we can pay up front, whatever. So I think, my suggestion would be that you think about it, and talk to Paul Jr., and I'll talk to Paul Jr., and in June, we decide what kind of book we want.
I'd be happy to try to get any information y'all need on new or used trucks, either one, if you need some kind of ballpark figures. You know, some different type new trucks.
Well, of course, I think, you know, you should always look at trying to get one that's more up to date, you know, and do it.
Well, that's what I'd suggest.
With the poly paints and things like that, that way we don't, down the road, you know, 5 years down the road, because you're already gonna be talking about used equipment, if we go that route.
Yes, sir.
But I think that's what the mayor was discussing here, that we need to decide which way we really wanna go with this. But it would be good, you know.
Any information you have would be worthwhile.
I'm sure a new truck price is gonna be shocking all though.
I can give you some rough ones off the top of my head. The one we applied for the FEMA grant, looking at about $300,000. And the particular truck that we're looking at to buy used, new, would cost about $500,000. That's ballpark.
Anything else? We can discuss about that. Next on the agenda is Nancy.
Really, I just wanted to talk about the grants that we're working on for fire and police, but for me, with the type of business I have, we're law enforcement training center. So I'm working on stuff for the fire department once we get the stuff together, because I'm already doing it for the police department, because I benefit from the police department, for my business benefits. Kind of with the hostility for the police department, I don't even know if we're gonna be doing it, we're gonna be working on quite a bit of stuff. But I don't have any updates for you right now. We need to get a city growth plan, an economic growth plan, a tourism growth plan. The tourism growth plan, I can help with quite a bit, because the events we're gonna be having are gonna bring quite a few people in here. But it all revolves around training. So now if you need specific equipment to perform the training to get the certification that the grant is paying for, then you can use a portion of the grant money to pay for that equipment that you need. It's kind of like a loophole to go around when you need new hoses or new ladders or new axes or new breaching tools or new weapons or ammo or whatever. So I don't have an update. We need to get these reports together. Rick and I'll finalize what we've been working on. Paul tried to get hold of me this week. I was unable to speak with him this week, so he and I will get together and we'll go over the plans and go over these upcoming grants. I will say that a lot of the grants that we've been looking at, of course, we've already missed the deadline for the previous ones, and obviously the money's already gone, but the stuff we're applying for next year, or looking at to apply for next year, they're to either refurbish or purchase new equipment. So if you buy a truck and get a loan and then apply for the grant, then you're already disqualified because you no longer need a new truck. Right, it's like I found one for the police department that specifically deals with new weapons and different things to kind of get them out of some of these older items that they have that and in looking at that, if they go ahead and replace those weapons now before the grant is approved, then we're automatically qualified for that grant. And it's the same for the fire department. So I'd say since y'all aren't going to do anything about it until June anyway, let us finish doing what we need to do, and we'll kind of take it from there. The big concern is, and I'll address it. I've heard some discussions about previous grants that the city has had for specific items, and then ended up either refusing the grant once it came in, or sending the money back, after partial use, whatever. And that's fine and dandy, but the problem is that it's not just the city of Gainesboro PD and FD that I'm going to be doing this for. I'm doing it for other folks as well, specifically for the Black Dog Gun Range. So if we apply for a grant and then y'all get it, and somebody decides, well, we don't want to do this, and the money goes back, then it affects Black Dog Gun Range in the long run, and it affects other police departments and potentially other fire departments. So there would need to be some kind of contractual agreement in place that pretty much states that if y'all choose for us to move forward with a specific grant, and we'll go over them one at a time. I got no problem with it. I mean, my philosophy is you apply for 100 and then take the 4 or 5 that you get, as opposed to applying for 4 or 5 and getting none. So, but we need to have some kind of agreement in place that if y'all say yes, pull the trigger, let's go for this grant, and then we apply for it and we get it, you have to follow through with the agreements of the grant, not decide that we don't need an additional policeman, or we don't need an additional set of new hoses or something, and send that grant money back. So it won't just affect Black Dog Gun Range, which will kind of irritate me, but it'll affect other police departments, sheriff's departments, fire departments in the community. So
that may have happened sometime in the past, not since.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just saying, I've heard things, I don't have any, I'm just saying to protect all of us, if we're gonna apply for the grants, we need to make sure that we follow through with it. So, but yeah, the three of us still have quite a bit of work to do before we can even begin to apply for those, but we do need to get a tourism, growth plan, an economic growth plan, and a city growth plan, and I believe, did you have a chance to talk to them? We're working on the tourism and the economic growth plans.
And I don't know how much, I know we have some stuff on the county level, I don't know, I hadn't worked with the city enough to know if that kind of stuff on the city level.
Okay. Well, I know there's some new businesses coming to town, maybe we should get with those business owners and.
I guess what we need to do is, we don't want to close any doors.
Right. Right.
We need to look at what might be available through your resources or whatever. Before we make a final decision, so.
I do know, what would be very helpful in this whole thing, because it's a rural county, rural city, if you can get with the county mayor, and maybe see if some of these grants we can apply for both the city and the county, both the sheriff, the PD, as well as the individual fire departments out there, because that really helps a lot if it's a community, countywide effort. And you said you've already got the growth plan, you got that from me? Thank you, that's all I had.
Next thing, we need to appoint a safety director. PML and the insurance carrier says that we need to have a safety director. We had one, without a safety director, I think, Blue Ball, Ronnie Wilbur, and we hadn't had one since then. Do you have any suggestions of who we might call? We want either try to appoint someone or how do you all do it? You have suggestions?
No, I don't, I said if you could suggest.
No, I don't have suggestions. But that's how we do it. I wouldn't want to appoint someone without talking to them about it. So we'll work on that. Have a recommendation from you or from me. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the budget, next year's budget. We're just at the point now where we're caught up with our deficiencies that we had in all of our expenditures, all that, so we'll have that building, start working on next week. With that information, I can start putting some numbers together. Without knowing actually what our expenditures were versus what our revenues were, where we actually stand. I'm not blind leading. Hopefully we'll, and, it's getting, we may have to, I don't know whether we can get it all worked out or not. If we can't, we can always still continue with it, so, anything else from the audience? I assume that there's some people here who are interested in a beer permit, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
With a beer permit policy, it'll have to go before the beer board before we can approve that. I've got your application, so
Yes, sir.
we'll put that in the process, and beer board will meet shortly and look at your permit and go from there. When is the transaction going to take place?
15th of May.
15th of May. We'll try to get it done now.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
Mayor, I just have one comment. I would just, Mayor, Ron, Bobby else, anybody else in this room who came here to support me tonight, I appreciate your effort and your benefit.
So I just read what Charlie said.
Yes, has there been any discussion yet of what the city's license cost will be for a restaurant that we will be opening?
No, we haven't.
Can we get that on a forthcoming agenda since things will be moving further rapidly?
When you're opening date for this?
next month. If that will speed things up. It's several months from now, but we obviously like to have all the ducks lined up and not be scrambling for the last minute.
Mr. Mayor, as an elected official, aren't you ultimately supposed to act on behalf of the city's best interests and the people? And if that is the case, potential for a lawsuit is extremely high, that we can afford that decision. I don't think anybody here can afford extra taxes. If we're not acting in the best interests of the city and the people therein, some people are resigned.
They have to act on the best interest of the people as they interpret that interest.
Absolutely. But evidently, people who spoke up, and everybody did.
I'm assuming they didn't.
I'll put it this way, choices I made 7 years, I'll make them, you won't see me home,
That's your call, you have to make that decision.
No, I don't make that decision, you can't go vote. I make my choices on my choices.
The other
I
option
don't
is
make no
recall.
vote, I don't make no vote, I'm gonna get back in office.
Well,
Now, getting back in office will just keep me out of a whole bunch of headaches.
without having cause, it appears to be a.
I mean, that don't bother me, you've got a choice to vote, and you're gonna do what you want.
Don't vote. Don't.
The deadline is soon.
So, that's just what I'm saying, next week, that's, so that's when we get down to try to schedule. If we schedule interview for next week, I will see in the application, and I don't know what I'm going to see. We ought to be able to do that, easy enough, 2 sessions. If we did that on Monday, Tuesday, is that, I believe, after hotel, and then come back on that Thursday. May the 17th, 6 o'clock. Motion. Motion by Mr. Stafford, seconded by Mr. Moore, is that all right? All voted? Then we said,